This is Leena Rao with TechCrunch TV, and we're here with Gurbaksh Chahal, CEO and founder of RadiumOne. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Why don't you start out and tell us exactly what RadiumOne does, just for anyone out there that doesn't know, what you guys are doing right now.
Sure. RadiumOne is an ad network, and what we've built is a patent-pending technology called the share graph. And what we focused on was realizing that while everybody's focused on Facebook, is where 10% of the internet spends its time, 90% of the time everybody spends on the rest of the web. And the rest of the web has increasingly become social, where you can share, comment, copy, paste, send links to each other across various platforms. And through that, we're able to extract data and build a share graph, which means if you actually share something with someone through the rest of the web, there's probably a chance that you probably have a much more qualitative connection between that user versus just friending someone on Facebook.
So you're using social data to provide ad targeting, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. What are the privacy issues with that?
Well, unlike Facebook, which actually stores profile information and so forth, we basically do anonymous cookie stitching, which basically says, if somebody shares something with someone, we get a ping back, so we can actually delineate a connection between two audiences. Versus, a lot of the issues that I think has happened through the industry over the last year, where you had issues where people are actually extracting profile information, where you could actually get real identities, and that's where you get into trouble. Whereas what we're doing is we're much more looking at building the right technology, building the right solutions that are simple to use, and we don't run into a lot of those issues.
Now, in terms of social targeting, what are you seeing in terms of data in how this form of targeting is increasing conversion rates for advertisements?
So I guess the underlying goal is that social advertising itself is a big phenomenon, and everybody wants it. The problem is everybody looks at it as just Facebook being the only thing that is social advertising. And if you look at a lot of these other companies that you would think have a social solution, Google's still trying to build a platform. Microsoft is really a partner, so they don't really compete with Facebook in that arena. Yahoo's still Yahoo, and AOL obviously is a very successful ad network still with ad.com, but is kind of reinventing its content strategy. So the way we see it is that if we could actually own the social targeting space outside of Facebook, we're actually providing advertisers a unique ability to get the same type of reach and same type of connection that they like in Facebook through the rest of the web. And results-wise, we've had phenomenal results. And this is kind of a big pivot, I think, for display advertising, because the big pivot last time was behavioral targeting. And behavioral targeting worked immensely in performance, and once people realized it, everybody wanted it. Social is a lot more complex because it revolves around complicated data, it revolves around much more deeper technology, but the results actually extend beyond behavioral. So that's the clear opportunity for us.
Now, what's to stop, I guess, Facebook from starting this on their own?
Well, the fundamental belief is this is very different than Facebook. Facebook is about having hundreds and hundreds of connections. So you can have people that you friended that you go to work with, maybe you went to high school with, or maybe you went to elementary school with, but you don't really connect with. So it's basically an address book, at least you can say, at least their social graph is. Our methodology is much more refiner, where it's saying if you actually share a piece of information through the rest of the web, that means you're actually saying you're an influencer and somebody else is an influencee. And that's a much more refiner graph, and you're not going to have hundreds and hundreds of connections based on users, and you'll probably have a dozen or so connections that really matter. So if Facebook did this, it kind of defeats the purpose, and it also is a very much different type of approach. I mean, we're not trying to do something that is similar to Facebook. We're trying to do something that's in our at least mindset better in the way that we can target.
Now, I understand that you've raised some funding. Could you tell us how much and who your investors are?
Sure. We've raised today a Series B, 21 million, adds to our previous capital. So we have a total of $33.5 million that we've raised. We reached profitability last Q4, so we have a lion's share of the capital before. So the primary use of this will be for some acquisitions that we've outlined in the space that we plan on doing this year, as well as rolling out our international strategy. And the lead investor is Crosslink Capital. Board member is Jim McLean, that will be joining our board. And another investor that came is a European outfit, DFJ Esprit, and all of our previous investors, Adam Street and Trinity, also contributed to the round.
So you had previously been quoted as saying that you were looking to raise in the 50 million range. What was the deciding factor in raising, about half of that?
Well, the opportunity was we actually got a term sheet with $50 million on it. The flip side of it is that we have most of all that 12.5 million we raised before, and we know the couple of acquisitions we want to do, and we also know the couple of geographies we want to add. Do we need 50 million for that, or is the combination of our previous round and this round sufficient? And while it was great that there was a $50 million offer to invest in the company, I think we made more of a management decision that we're going to be a lot more cost conscious, and we're going to be smart about the way we spend at least or invest at least this money.
In terms of the possibility of acquisitions, what types of technologies and companies are you looking to acquire? Is it more from a talent standpoint? Is it more, to expand reach?
Talent is going to be key. So I think we might make some talent acquisition hires, but most importantly, I think that there is a lot of companies that have come out in the social space, at least in the last 2-3 years, that revolve around features, meaning that they produce a lot of data, but they don't really have a revenue model. And us being data experts in the way that we can utilize data to create yield and create better ad targeting, there's a list of companies we've outlined that would make great fits within our ecosystem. So data strategies, data companies, social data companies that produce that much are going to be the key variable.
I know that this is a touchy subject. You guys are a private company, but can you give us any sort of sense of what your revenues are, in your first year, or how much they're increasing, and what you expect in 2011?
Yeah, I guess the first year in revenue was 2011 for us, and can't disclose the actual amount, but we did double-digit millions, so very proud of the fact that we were able to do that in our first year, and our goal is to basically do 4 to 5x that this year.
And I guess it's important to note that you actually, the ad space is not new to you. You sold your company Blue Lithium to Yahoo. What are you bringing in terms of your knowledge from that transaction and from that experience?
I think being able to do this the third time around, I think is a blessing, because you're able to realize what works technology-wise, what works people-wise, what works in order for a product to be successful very early on. And the team that I was able to bring in was key. The talent obviously was able to execute against it. But I think one fundamental strategy that works for us is the fact that we know the biggest asset for ad targeting and advertising is data. So when I kind of look at a lot of these companies getting funding because they've thought of a great new way to target ads, and they've hired these rocket scientists with PhDs to figure out a problem that is a lot more simpler, I kind of laugh at that, because I realize, like, okay, I think we've figured out that it's not the perfect algorithm that's going to solve the solution, it's going to be the perfect data set. And that is what made us thrive in Blue Lithium, when we realized that behavioral data definitely escalated ad targeting. And I think we're on even a bigger problem here that nobody's really focusing in on. So we're definitely ahead of the curve, the most highly funded company, as well as the most probably revenue-oriented company in the space so far. So all of that speaks well in favor for our strategy.
Great. Well, keep us updated on news from RadiumOne, and thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.